Good afternoon. Today in the shop, we're working on a John Deere 630F Hydroflex grain head. We bought this head and we're just gonna run, I don't think we'll be in anywhere about 40 acres of soybeans and about 40 acres of wheat through this head. And when I bought it, I knew it had some issues with the deck plating. This right here is what you're looking at is the stainless steel deck plating that has come out of this flex head. The people that had it before had taken, and you can see these holes right here, they're wallered out. They are extremely large and they are not supposed to be that way. This right here is one of the holes that's wallered out. Right next to it is a hole that isn't used on this model of head. This is one of the shoulder bolts that goes through, let's get down here on the side, that goes through here and stops. And the reason it has the collar on it, that bolt needs to be able to move so when the head flexes, it's not rigid and doesn't bend the metal. So this hole right here is supposed to sit like that and allow it to move back and forth. That's normal. However, on the ones that's wore out, the bolts are pulling all the way through. The people that had this head before me took large flat washers, put them at the holes, and when they bolted the shoulder bolts down with the large flat washers, it locked that down and would not allow that bolt to move, so it was fixed in there pretty rigid like. If you're unfamiliar about what part we've took off here, right here in my hand is one of the stone dams on the front. This is the short one. This is 20 millimeters tall. John Deere loves metric, so this is metric 20 millimeter. They make another one that's 40 millimeters tall. It would be a whole lot higher. It'd be like this tall. And what it does is it bolts through these holes right here behind the cutter bar, and it sits right there, just like that. And the shoulder bolts screw into that hole right there. So that gives you a reference where we're at. This panel right here is actually one of the long panels off of the left-hand side of the cutter bar. If you've ever been in and worked on one of these heads, you know what I'm talking about. These are a whole lot easier to take out than, say, a 9 series head. A 9 series head, the deck plating are a nightmare. This one, as fast as you can take the bolts out, the deck plating comes out easy. Back here in the back, you can see my Mountain Dew and my nutter bars. Anybody that's been to my shop knows about my nutter bars. You leave my nutter bars alone. Do not touch the Nutty Buddies. Not at all. So what we're having to do on this, we want to do a repair on these holes. And the reason we're going to do the repair on the holes instead of buying a whole new sheet is because one of these panels is $300 and some a piece. To put all the panels across the entire machine, it's going to cost about $1,500. We will put in new shoulder bolts because the shoulder bolts we have are kind of wallered out as well. But for a few acres, as we're going to run through this platform head, we're just going to repair the holes as best we can and run it. Alrighty. I'll flip this sheet over, and you see down the left-hand side here, we've got the hooks that hook into the frame on the back side of the head. This one right here, you can look down and see it's bent up just a little bit. That's no big deal. Just bend it back, take a pair of pliers, something, bend it back down, take a block of wood and hit it with a hammer, just knock it back down. That won't hurt anything. You can bend that back. Now over here on this side, here we have a piece of steel that is tack welded to the stainless steel deck plate. What this stuff is, from my best guess, is it is some form of spring steel. It's not stainless because it's rusted and it sparks when you hit it with a grinder. So I think it's some form of spring steel. And the reason I think it's spring steel is because I have tried to drill it out before and I cannot get a drill bit to go through that stuff. It is hard metal. So what we're doing on this, we'll take this hole right here, for example, where it's wallered out. We will take a flat wheel grinder, grind this out smooth and get it all clean material. And here I have bought a stainless steel washer, and we will lay it right there and we will weld about 3/4 of the way around that. Okay, the hole, like this one right here, when we first showed you, it's a little oblong, and that's what normal it is, whereas the other ones are just wallered out big and round. I know my washers are round, but they're big enough that the shoulder bolts can still move in them. For a few acres, as I'm going to be running through this head, this is going to be just fine. If I was going to be running 500,000 acres through this head a year, I would go buy new deck plating. But for the few acres as it's going to be run through, this is going to work just fine. I bought, for the whole machine, I bought about $25 worth of stainless steel washers. Those things were expensive because they were stainless. You know, they're stainless twice the price of regular metal. $30 is a far cry from $1,500 worth of deck plate. So it's just going to save me a little money, or a lot of money. I can buy more nutty butters. Okay, so let's get the first part and we'll start grinding. Got my DeWalt wireless grinder right here, cordless. With a dead battery. Swap that out right quick. All right, we've got these polished up. I don't want to get too carried away on it. I know there's still a little bit of pitting in there, but it'll be okay. The biggest thing you want to do is take your time, because what will happen when you start welding on this one, this spring steel will start to flex and it will start to pull up and bend, and it'll make it look like a half moon shape. So the biggest thing is, when we start welding on this, we want to take our time. Tack one here, then go here, tack one. Just keep moving around and let the steel stay cool. That way you don't take the spring steel out of the steel too much, which it's going to right in here just because it's going to get hot, but in the middle, it won't hurt it. I mean, it's like I said, it ain't a perfect fix, but it's a whole lot cheaper than $1,500. So next step will be to put a washer right here and weld it down. Okay, here we are. We got the washer laid right here. I'm going to put it just right there on the edge, and I'm just going to center it up on that hole as best I can. There's enough play around those shoulder bolts that it'll start and get in there and it'll move around. That's no big deal, because that's what we want. We want it to be able to move. What we're using today, and being I'm using stainless steel washers, I'm using a stainless steel wire in my little Rebel EM215 made by ESOB. That's a heck of a little welder. 20 volts, 168 inches per minute. That's what it, welding this right here, I've tried it on the other sheet that I've done. That's just where it likes to weld at, and it's just doing a good job right there. Now granted, I'm not the best welder in the world, but I can get by and make it work. So let me set y'all up right here, and I will start welding these. Taking our time. All right, I'm gonna cut that off and let that cool for just a minute, and we'll be right back. All right, here we are. I went ahead and welded the rest of them. All right, I'm not the best welder in the world. I don't care. It will hold. But what we will do, since there's a little bit of puddling on top of the washer, I'll take that flat wheel grinder and I'll grind them back flat. So we'll set y'all right there. Alrighty, there we have what it looks like when I get done with it. That washer's welded in there. All right, y'all can make fun of my welding. I don't care. Guess what? This is a whole lot cheaper than $300 plus for that piece of sheet metal. So once we do that, we'll just move on down and we'll keep doing that to all the rest of the holes that need it down through there. And that is how we fix one of these sheets on a John Deere 630 flex head. So, all right, one thing I was asked about was when we do this, everything's upside down here, so let's remember that the stone dam, when it gets put in and it's bolted down right there, let's get it, see if we can see it, it leaves a little bit of gap because of the distance, because of the flat washer we have put on the steel. Yes, that is true. See, there it is sitting flush, whereas we move it over here, it sits there and puts a little gap. All right, the deal is, in soybeans, the soybeans are not big enough to go underneath that gap. It does not matter. I don't do any canola, so I don't worry about that, because canola, if you've ever messed with it, it kind of flows like water, and it would go through a hole that, like, just exactly like that. This wouldn't work for canola. Wheat. Wheat's small enough that some kernels could get under that gap and you lose yield. Well, my feelings on that with the way I do things is I'm not taking just the top portion of the wheat plant. I am actually combining and using the wheat straw. So I'm taking everything but about 4 inches of stubble. So with that much stubble, that much straw going in the machine, it'll carry more of the wheat into the machine than will come off that lip in the front. So I'm not worried about that. So once we get all of these holes fixed and get it repaired, get that little piece right there bent back where it needs to be, we'll slap this head back together and she will be good to run. All right, the reason I made this video right here, dealing with this 630 flex head, I didn't want to spend as much money as what it would cost to fix this head properly, which was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,000 by the time I bought all new shoulder bolts, bought all the deck plating and everything like that. To me, I got better things to do with my money. Do this, if it works, great. If it don't, then we'll spend the money. But I would rather spend $30 trying to take a chance than to spend $1,500. So, you know, with 40 acres of wheat, if it don't work within 40 acres of wheat, I'm not too concerned about it. I mean, I'll get the wheat up sometime else. So, and I was looking on YouTube and I couldn't find any videos that dealt with the deck plating on these machines. I just couldn't find them. So I thought I'd put this video together just to see how it was going to work. And don't be scared of these 6 Series flex heads. There's not much to them. They're pretty simple to work, other than the little Hydroflex cylinders back there in the back. This piece of machinery, it's new to me, so I don't have that much experience with them. Now, a 9 Series flex head, those things with that deck plating in there is a nightmare, and you will mash your fingers 10 ways. They're spring loaded. It's not fun. But this 6 Series, don't be scared to tear into it. Take the front shoulder bolts out and the deck plates will come out, no problem. So, got any questions, comments, just put them in there. And we want to thank you.